Welcome to the S Rank Media Club podcast, where we will be ranking Tomb Raider 2018 as a part of our ranking of video game movies podcast series. This is episode 9. And yeah, let's get into it. So, this is the Tomb Raider after Lara Croft Tomb Raider starring Angelina Jolie. Sorry. Um, this one stars her name is Alicia Vikander, assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Gotcha.
So a little lesser known actress, I think. I don't really know of her
Yeah, I haven't seen her in anything else.
before watching this. So, um, but yeah, I'll get us started with a kind of a storyline here. Um, Laura Croft is a fiercely independent daughter of an eccentric adventurer, Lord Richard Croft, who vanished when she was scarcely a teen. Now a young woman of 21 without any real focus or purpose, Laura navigates the chaotic streets of trendy East London as a bike courier, barely making rent and taking college courses. Determined to forge her own path, she refuses to take the reins of her father's global empire just as staunchly as she rejects the idea that he's truly gone. Advised to face the facts and move forward after 7 years without him, even Lara can't understand what drives her to finally solve the puzzle of his mysterious death. Going explicitly against his final wishes, she leaves everything she knows behind in search of her dad's last known destination, a fabled tomb on a mythical island that might be somewhere off the coast of Japan. But her mission will not be an easy one. Just reaching the island will be extremely treacherous. Suddenly, the stakes couldn't be higher for Lara, who, against the odds and armed with only her sharp mind, blind faith, and inherent stubborn spirit, must learn to push herself beyond her limits as she journeys into the unknown. If she survives this perilous adventure, it could be the making of her, earning her the name Tomb Raider. So that's kind of a little storyline summary. This they take the angle of kind of this is the beginning story of Tomb Raider. It's a little different storyline than the original Tomb Raiders, so
Mhm.
it's kind of like I mentioned, the making of her becoming a Tomb Raider, so her origin story, we'll call it. And they really portray her less sexy and less superhero ish, which I think you mentioned before. Um, so that's kind of laying out the baseline for this, and she doesn't want to take up the Croft. Is it Croft Industries or Croft? I don't even know what it's called.
She's like hesitant to inherit her father's uh whatever,
Holding.
her
Right,
inheritance. Yeah.
right.
But it's also somehow she doesn't know what the inheritance is, and she's just decided she doesn't wanna know, I guess.
Right. But I think they're trying to portray her as she doesn't want to accept it because that means that her dad's dead. That's what I gathered.
I
It's like
got
she
you.
doesn't want to give up on the idea that her dad isn't coming back or is coming back, I should say.
Gotcha.
That's how I interpreted it. I don't know.
I mean, that would make sense. I was confused because it's like she just has no idea what it is, but she just leaves and doesn't even try and figure out what the I was confused how she didn't know what the inheritance was. She just
Right.
got that like magical object, which, as we know, this magical object from your dad will lead you to the place you need to go to.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah. So I guess I'll just run through a quick plot
yeah,
summary.
go for it.
Lara Croft, she's in London. She's just making ends meet as a bike courier, but it's kind of alluded to that she's smarter than she's letting on. Like she could, do something with her life, but she doesn't want to. Um, which seems like because she doesn't want to give up on her dad, so she's kind of like in a rut of doesn't know what to do with herself, but also doesn't want to take up Croft Industries. I don't know what we call it. Croft
Croft
Industries.
responsibilities,
Right.
remember?
Croft responsibilities. The Croft family responsibilities. Um, so she, I don't know, she messes up. She gets taken, or she goes to jail, and then gets bailed out by Anna, who is essentially runs Croft since her dad passed away, or presumably passed away. which kind of wakes her up. And she goes to go sign the will, but then she finds a Japanese puzzle and solves it and finds all of her dad's work, which pushes her to kind of try and go find what he was looking for or go find him. Even though her dad left her a video that said burn all of this because it could, destroy the world, which only piques her interest. So she automatically pawns off something to get money to fly to Japan. And she has her dad's notebook to try and find, a way to get to this island that her dad was trying to get to. She goes to Japan. She tries to find the same captain that her dad was working with and finds his son. This is essentially just a drunk guy who owns a boat. Convinces him to take the boat out to this unknown island. They end up getting there, but there's just a huge storm and they crash into rocks, and she ends up on the island saved by a mysterious man. Come to find out, this guy is an evil, guy that's been looking for this tomb on the island for the past 7 years, and he's using essentially slave labor to try and find it. And he can't leave the island because he's employed by, was it Trinity, I think, is the name they used?
Yeah, right. That was yes.
Some mysterious employer that won't let him leave until he's found this tomb. Mm-hmm. So he's essentially gone crazy, gone mad with trying to find this to try and get back to see his family. And he tells Laura that he killed her father. And she brought this diary of her dad's to him, and now he knows where the tomb is. So then we get this kind of scenes of the slave labor. They're moving to this new location because Laura brought them the direct place where this is. Mm-hmm. And then we get into kind of an action sequence chase scene where Laura barely escapes. Mm-hmm. And then the guy is hunting her down. One of the henchmen is tracking her and hunts her down. She ends up killing him with her kickboxing skills. And then it turns out her dad is there. So she chases her dad, and her dad's thinks he's going crazy and is she's not real. They reconcile a little bit, but then her dad's to me, her dad didn't care about her. It was all about keeping this tomb sealed so the world wouldn't end. Mm-hmm. And he really doesn't seem to care about Laura, and Laura is kind of pissed off. So Laura is we need to escape off this island. The guy has a satellite phone. We can, get off the island if we just get the satellite phone and call for help, essentially. Her dad doesn't want to because he's too worried about the guy finding the tomb. I think, what was his name? Vogel, I think his name was.
Vogel, yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I should give him a name. But yeah, so then Laura goes back to the work camp to try and steal the satellite phone. She ends up using a bow and arrow because she has amazing bow and arrow skills. She's able to take down a few of the guards, and then the workers are able to essentially escape. But then her dad runs up and is looking at the tomb. I don't know what he's doing up there. That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
he put himself into a weird position where he got taken hostage.
He's specifically not trying to open it up, and then he's just messing around up there.
Right.
All right, guy.
Right. Everything settles down, and then Vogel kind of comes up, and they have this kind of talk where I should say, where he's open it up, open the tomb, or I'll kill you, essentially. And then Laura shows up, and she's I'll open it, just don't kill my dad. So they open the tomb door and then they go in, and they make it to the center after a few traps, and they come to find out that the tomb was essentially to keep people in, not to keep people out. So they kind of understand that the traps are to stop people from getting out, and they're trying to figure out, why this. I think it was some royalty, right? A queen, maybe a Japanese feudal queen or something like that. The whole story is as they understood it, she got taken here against her will and sealed away. Come to find out from the paintings inside the tomb, the temple, she chose to come here herself to essentially save the world or save the people, because she was carrying a disease that was like, if you touch her, you perish, or it turns you into like a weird zombie thing.
Yeah, there's something
and this disease has been just sitting dormant in her coffin for however many years. So Vogel's like, finally finds, he's found the treasure or the person, and he's like, I need to take this and get out of here. Like, he's just focused on leaving to get home. Like, he doesn't really care about anything else. He's just trying to save himself. So he's like, he tells his men to pick up the body. They touch the body, and then they turn into like some weird zombie things, which they end up dying. And then Vogel's like, well, I just need a piece of it to take with me. I'm assuming for scientific discovery, stuff like that. So he takes a finger off the dead body, and Lara and her dad are like, we can't let him escape with this, because it could, lead to an outbreak and end humanity, essentially. So her dad is fighting with Vogel, but then one of the dead dudes comes back alive, and he has to fight him off, and ends up infecting her dad. So then her dad's like, leave, you need to. Vogel gets away. I forgot to mention, he gets away with the finger, and her dad's like, Lara, you need to go stop him. I'll blow myself up and, make sure, this doesn't ever escape. So he rigs it with dynamite and blows it up. And then Vogel and Lara have this big action sequence where they're wrestling and fighting, and then Lara ends up winning in the fight. Vogel dies, and then Lara somehow escapes the crumbling mountain because the boat captain threw down a rope or something like that, I think, right?
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah,
to help her out, basically.
Right, and Vogel had called in for the air transport, so when the air transport got there, all the workers essentially were like, take us home. I think that's pretty much it for the main story. And then Laura comes home and she signs the will, and then she looks at Anna and is like, you can keep running the business. Like, Laura doesn't know anything about it. She's like, you can just keep running the business. Like, it's all you. And then as she's kind of turning through the pages of all the assets or entities that Croft owns, she comes across, I think it's Prenta or something like that, Prenta Inc., which had appeared many times in the movie with the military contractors, which essentially foreshadows that Anna is in charge of Trinity or is behind Trinity in some way.
Right.
It's your sequel hook for the next movie that never happened.
Right. And that's kind of where it ends. So, yeah, not a terrible movie, but I wouldn't say it's very memorable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. I guess from the beginning, this is like a scrappy Lara Croft trying to climb up from the bottom. Like when she's, she's very much portrayed as that in the beginning. The people's Lara Croft spilling paint all over the city. Also, the scene where they ride the bike and they just cut a hole in the paint can. Can you imagine how hard that would be to clean up? Because it's not just one spot of paint; it's just a trail of paint, like as fast as somebody can ride a bike. That's wildly fucked up to do. I can't believe that. Like that's.
I mean, as long as it's not waterproof, it'll come off with a rain. So
Over how long?
If it's not oil based.
Still, that's.
If it's
That's
water
wild.
based, it shouldn't be an issue. But I agree. I had the same kind of reaction. I was like, well, that's kind of fucked up. That they're just spilling paint all over the city.
You guys are far more environmentally conscious than I am because I didn't even think twice about it.
That's gonna go in the storm sewers and go to the fish. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's gonna kill.
No,
The
that's
fish.
fair. That's fair.
It's gonna kill the turtles.
The turtles are gonna have plastic straws stuck in their noses because of this.
I don't really know what the paint has to do with that, but we're conflating the issues here now.
Yeah, so I kind of agree. I actually thought this movie was all right for most of it. Of course, her dad left her a magic item that tells her where to go, a MacGuffin.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, do you guys want to talk about this compared to the older Tomb Raider movies? Like, okay, it's clearly shown when she can't speak another language. That made me so happy that she couldn't just speak every language fluently. I was like, great, she doesn't know this language.
Right.
And like I said, where this made me really view those earlier Tomb Raider movies. Think about it. I'm like, those are like superhero movies. The Lara Croft in those movies kind of follows superhero tropes in a way. And it's like superhero Lara Croft versus this one, which is like survivalist Lara Croft. Like,
right.
It very much makes her like a survivalist when she goes onto the island. Like the river scene where she's going on the river and catches on the plane. And it very much feels more like she's not a superhuman machine, and she is like and she actually seems to be hurt at least for a little while when she falls, like when she gets the stake in her and has to pull it out.
Right.
Now maybe some of those injuries mysteriously go away pretty quickly, but at least
it feels like it feels like they're there. They go away in the fight because it doesn't seem to impact her that much.
Yeah.
But then, like when she's back with Dad, it's like,
it's back.
By the way, I'm injured.
Yeah. So,
It's adrenaline.
Which is a fair counterpoint.
It's some adrenaline, but that stake, man, that has to be.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say they went for realism in this one. In my opinion, they didn't. And to be honest, I was kind of sitting waiting for like some crazy shit to happen where she just like goes crazy and like does some weird superhuman stuff, but it never happened.
Felt like towards the end they went a little bit like towards that last like scene in the movie kind of it went a little bit escaping. Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, okay. I wish you wouldn't have, but like, and I don't know. It's like superhero Lara Croft is like fake. It's like you fantasize about superhero Lara Croft if you're like a teenager because you don't understand like the real world and you're just like, she's just hot lady doing like badass things. But this survivalist Lara is much more endearing and like it feels more like a real person that gets hurt when she falls long distances.
Right. I want to push back a little bit on on the ending scene, and I think I think that was important to the video game aspect because like it's based off a video game, right? And I think it really was like the pinnacle of like, oh, here's Lara Croft. She's now a Tomb Raider. Like they destroyed the tomb. She made it out somehow, and I think it was it probably wasn't like 100% realistic, but it was kind of like, oh, we need, she's obviously going to escape, but, the tomb's crumbling around her and she makes it. But it wasn't like, oh, she burst through the rocks with superhuman strength and her guns blazing, like that sort of thing.
I've played the first, the modern Tomb Raider series of games. I played the first one, and this movie did remind me a lot of that game.
You're talking the one from 2013 that this movie's based off of?
Oh, is this based out? So they did 3 in that like modern reboot of Tomb Raider. The first one of those. I think it's just called Tomb Raider, right?
Yeah, it was just called Tomb Raider. So this is very largely based on the 2013 Tomb Raider game.
Okay.
Which funny enough, like after I watched this movie, like I haven't played the game myself, but I figured I'd read up a little bit on it. Just so I was kind of curious for like some of the differences.
Fun game.
Apparently, that 2013 game is brutal.
Oh yeah, the death scenes you get when it is gruesome.
Yeah.
Like
when I'm getting comparisons to like Dead Space, it's like that's pretty telling.
Yeah. Yeah. So I liked this much better than the previous Tomb Raider movies. Okay, the plot of where the bad guy forces them all into the tomb, it feels a bit stale, but I felt like actually the chase scenes and like the tomb scenes. I kind of enjoyed watching. Like the scene with the falling floor and the gems felt like a good Indiana Jones scene to me.
Colton, is this a cry for help? Have you been kidnapped? Do you need assistance?
No, I think they did it okay. Like it wasn't so overblown chase. It felt like I was all right with it. Like
I agree with that. I think the actual tomb raiding wasn't any longer or shorter than it needed to be. I thought it was a good length.
I suppose I should actually compliment this movie for actually having tomb raiding contrast to the Cradle of Life.
Yeah, I think like stylistically, I like the tombs better than in the older stuff too. Like they just looked more. I don't know what the word is. Like the old ones, like the tombs were like too perfect and too like, yeah. But then this one, it felt a lot better.
Right.
I can't put my finger on exactly why. When it turned out to be a disease, then too, I liked that it was a disease and like the way that kind of worked was cool. I don't know that they had to be zombies after, but maybe they did have to be.
But yet this was ultimately the second Tomb Raider movie, because like the first one did this too, where it's like you just have some super powerful, fast acting disease that's completely unrealistic.
I would argue this one did it better though.
I mean, fair, but it's also, yeah.
It's a video game movie.
I was like interested when they were opening the tomb what was going to happen. I didn't know.
I didn't know what was going to happen.
The way this movie was going, I thought that thing was going to open its eyes and they were going to fight a demon, and that's what I was hoping for. But you know,
I agree. I almost feel like that would have made the ending a little bit more fun. But
yeah,
what do I know?
My whole thing with that is like, I feel like they had to keep it in bounds though.
Right? Yeah, you're right. No,
the thing is though, it's like, spoiler alerts for 2013 game if you haven't played it. But like fighting like a gigantic samurai demon is effectively what happens at the end of the game. Like why don't I get that in this movie?
But she's not equipped to fight a giant samurai demon though.
Yeah, she hasn't upgraded her levels yet. That's the third movie when she fully upgrades her stuff.
Well, what I was gonna say is like I was like thinking about it. I was consciously thinking about, when they open this tomb, if there is something supernatural, I feel like there's no realistic way of fighting it where they're currently sitting at right now. Like they have guns, they have that sort of thing, but they would have to pull something right out of their asses to take down a samurai ghost or whatever.
Yeah, and why does that guy want this so bad? Did they say? I don't remember why he cared about this so much.
Basically, the organization, there's like that shadow organization that this dude is working for.
TriStar.
Dropped him off on the island and refuses to let him leave and go back to his family until he actually opens the tomb and brings Himiko out.
But for what? I don't understand. I
never understand. That's part of the mysteriousness.
Oh, that's
that leads into the second movie, I think.
Well, they talk about it. I think they talk about it at some point in the movie. Basically, it's like right in the beginning, I think, when they're talking about the journals, like, hey, with the power of the tomb, that in the tomb of Himiko could be the power to rule the world, which is what this organization wants to do.
Right, they deal in supernatural powers essentially.
So I think the whole thing here is that they would have weaponized that disease to
Right.
basically create their world empire.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Other plot point thoughts?
The one thing that I disliked was how fast she was able to move in Japan, I guess. Like you had the chase scene where they tried to rob her or whatever, but then she talks to, I think his name was like Liu Chan or something like that.
Lou Ren, I think.
Lou Rant, I don't know, whatever his name is. And he's just all aboard right away. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I've
But
sobered
that
up
was
and I'm
about
ready to
it.
go.
Right. So it's like, yeah, I think they could have done a little more with that, but also you gotta, that's not really
Yeah.
the most important part of
Right.
Tomb
But
Raider.
he's just like, yeah, let's go crash this
Right.
boat.
Right. Yeah.
So tough people wear arm bandages.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene, like after one of the scenes, Lara has a bandage on her arm, and then she's got a bandage over top of her pant leg. So, like, if you want to look tougher, if you want to make a character look tougher, put bandages around their arm, like a full arm bandage. It just makes you look tougher. I've decided. That's easy one right there. He keeps calling her Sprout, and it feels so forced. I'm just like, stop. Like every time he says it, it feels forced when she's older.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, stop saying that.
Well, any parent will tell you it doesn't matter how old they get, they're still your kids.
I guess I don't know, but I don't something about it.
Yeah,
It
but
just
he didn't
felt
even like
forced.
his kids.
He didn't like anyone.
He's like, screw you, Laura. Like, I don't care about you. I just care about the world. And Laura's like, what the hell? This is not what I expected.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in his defense, I mean, she lives in the world, so
Yeah.
as she's part of the world, and by extension, he does care about her.
Yeah. I for sure wasn't expecting that, like, interaction between them.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good surprise. Some character depth, I guess, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
But anyway, should we rank it?
Yeah, let's rank it. Tomb Raider. I don't know. Like as a video game movie, like it's pretty good. It's definitely in the top of the video game movies for me. I'm debating if I give this a C plus or a B. It's definitely deserving of a C plus, but what I can't decide is if I like it enough to give it a B. Like I think as a video game movie, it's pretty good.
But what about as an actual movie?
As an actual movie, oh gosh, is it a B movie? Does it really?
You like
live up
jazz?
to that?
I'm looking over previous rankings, and you haven't actually like none of us have given except for Colton, you have yet to give a video game movie a B.
What did I give Mortal Kombat?
An A.
Oh. Well then this is a B. This is a B for me.
Mortal Kombat 2021.
Yes, you gave that an A. Contrasting mine and Quinn's, I feel much more reasonable B.
No, good movie.
I just want to make sure that I was pointing out that it was the most recent Mortal Kombat and not the original Mortal Kombat that you gave an A to.
I probably gave the original
It was
Mortal
definitely
Kombat.
Annihilation. Annihilation deserves that A.
Oh gosh, it's a rough one.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B for this one. I think it deserves a B as the best of its chase tomb raiding subgenre. Also, I feel like it's not that there's an oversaturation of tomb raiding style movies. It's just that I have had to watch all of them in the last year. You got the Uncharted, all the Indiana Jones movies, Tomb Raiders.
Technically, we haven't actually ranked the last one on this podcast yet.
What's the last one?
Crystal Skull.
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah, it's not a video game.
But we did cover the first 3 in the early days of our show.
That's
The
true.
early days. All right, what do you?
I
What do
will
you
correct
guys give
myself.
this?
There is still Lego Indiana Jones, the Crystal Skull. So like,
Oh,
there's no argument for that.
there you go.
But the movie came before the game, so I think it's a little different.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think I'm gonna go with B as well. I think it was a solid movie. And I like the direction they went with it. Very realistic and refreshing. I thought the action scenes were very unique, like with the river and the plane.
I like the plane one. Yeah.
The plane was good, I thought. I don't know how the plane got there, but I think it was it was good. And then how she crashes through the trees and how they didn't throw in that she was just some master of martial arts, but they started it with her in the gym and like, oh, she's, she has some training, but she's not the best. So they really developed her as a starting point for the movie or for the franchise, I guess, right? So, but yeah. I think a B is a good ranking. All right, Kudrow, bring us back to Earth.
Yeah, tear it down here.
I love how I've gained this reputation for hating everything.
Just the good things.
Am I the caustic critic of this crew? Is that what I've become?
Listen, I don't.
Wait, I got a question. Is it better than Final Fantasy?
There's no movie better than Final Fantasy, except there is. But I don't know. To be honest with you, like when I'm thinking of the other, like the first Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie, I actually think I might have had more fun with that one, honestly. But I mean, for what it is, this one's okay. I don't think it's B. I think this is a very average movie. Worth a watch, and then it slips out of the mind and you never think about it again. So for me, it's a C.
All right, for Kudrow,
it goes the way of Uncharted.
It's a C. All right, so we'll look at our overall here. So, Kudrow with your C, and for me it's a B, but it's on the low end of the Bs. I'm gonna say top of the C tier would be where I would lean for this one. What do you guys feel?
I think that's a good place for it.
Kudrow, is top of the C tier agreeable to you with our B rankings?
I wouldn't object.
All right, I think that's a fair place for it. Make some good points, Kudrow. I definitely put it at the bottom of the B tier, so I am all for it. And with this, Tomb Raider 2018 is in the C tier.